Welcome back to the Toshiba T3200SX series. In this video, we've got a couple of things going on. So we're going to work on some memory and maybe hopefully get this thing bumped up to at least an acceptable 4 megabytes or maybe more if I can do that. I think I figured out what I did wrong in my last video. I just happened to look at the, I won't spoil it for you. I think I found my problem. Before I dive into that, we're also going to look at the display. We're going to find out what kind of capacitors it needs. And yes, my display has some bad capacitors. One most definitely is bad, and some suspect ones. I found that out, as you'll see, after I disassembled it, after it was powered on for about an hour. I started to find some electrolyte boiling out of one of the caps, and that kind of played into my suspicions of there being bad caps because of poor brightness. The display isn't as bright as it's supposed to be. It should be brighter than it is. Now, I've got something more exciting for you guys. Now, as you know, I've been doing a lot of vintage radio restorations for Miata owners, and one of the products that I have custom made is an overlay. Let me show you what that looks like. So one of the products that I actually had to have made by a legitimate manufacturer are these overlays. Now these are made out of a polycarbonate material. They're self-adhesive, and light shines through them where the print is. These don't come cheap. These are phenomenally expensive. But because I order so many of them, I can aggregate the cost across, my customer base. Got an idea. And this is going to take some, some real effort. Well, not really. This overlay that is part of the display housing. Now, mine's in perfect shape. I don't need to replace this. But there's a lot of these out there that people have collected over the years that are either missing that overlay because you have to remove it to take the display apart. To take the display apart to get the cover off. It's a pain in the ass and a poor design on Toshiba's behalf. I'm sure they know that. Shame on you, Toshiba. But because of that, a lot of those overlays have been damaged, lost, whatever. I can have those made. I can ship one of these off. I would send this exact one off to the company that made these, and I would say I need to have 20 or 30 of them produced. But here's the rub. I am not going to saddle that expense and hope I sell them all. Here's what I'm offering to the community. I will get a price on producing that label. I would expect it to be over $100 a piece. I would then take orders for those labels. There will be a minimum deposit of 50% on each one. I will not be left holding the bag. Let me tell you what I mean by that. I had these produced as an extra set of 30, and at the very last minute, after I had paid for the production run, the gentleman who wanted to buy like 10 sets from me, he backed out. Last minute. At that point, I'm like, forget it. I'll eat it. This pack right here cost me $450. There are 30 sets of these labels in this pack. I ate most of that. I'm not doing it again. If you want a new label for your 3200SX, let me know and I'll take your information down. I need a minimum, an absolute minimum of about, let me think here. And we're looking at quite a bit of money. I'm going to need a minimum of maybe 10 orders to be able to justify the cost. And again, you're looking at around $100 per label. So if you want this, could be more, could be more, could be lower, could be less. They do cost a lot to produce, mainly in setup expenses. So if you want a new overlay, drop me a message. Otherwise, I'll just keep on doing what I'm doing. But I will need to sacrifice my original one to send it off so they can measure it, color match, get the right material, the right, there's a lot that goes into it. But you're looking at about $100 per label based on what they're charging you for these. This is it's like 30 per set of labels is $30, and that's just that's one of each of what you see here. So that's not cheap. But I'm willing to commit to a production run once I need to get real interest, and before I place any orders, I'm going to need to collect deposits from anyone interested. So there you go. You ever see those TikToks that say, they show somebody doing something like to perfection, and the tagline is, "I understand the assignment." Well, apparently, I did not understand the assignment. Let me explain. For those of you who've been following my channel for any length of time, you probably know how much how badly I've been wanting another T3200SX, and how I've gone through the ends of the earth to find one. And once I found one, I realized, oh yeah, this machine requires a little more tender loving care than your average desktop or even portable. And one of those issues is the RAM. Trying to find memory. See, these ship with 1 megabyte of memory, and most of them only had 1 megabyte of memory when they were taken out of service and stuffed away in a closet somewhere. Well, here's the thing. There is a way to get standard 30-pin modules to work in these machines. Now, the question of whether they have to be parity or not, I think I found the answer to that. And the answer is no. They do not have to be parity because, well, spoiler alert, I just got 2 of these to work. These are 1 megabyte SIMs. These are meant for the Macintosh, I believe the Mac SE, or the early classics. And there is a way to make them work. And the idea is to modify the SIM so that pin 28 is routed to pin 2. Only I didn't understand the assignment. The object is not to route pin 28 literally to pin 2 or map it to pin 2 and cut the trace. You want to map the trace that goes to pin 28 to pin 2. Like, duh. Well, that explains why these don't work. Ay. Anyway, I went through a lot of trial and error buying memory for this machine, finding it doesn't work, and then posting my tales of woe all over my channel. And it caught the attention of a gentleman who is a friend to the hobbyist, a friend to the computer hobby in general. And that gentleman, I won't give his real name, but his YouTube channel is RetroTech Chris. RetroTech Chris saw my video and saw the hell I was going through. And he actually went and bought another set of memory as a Hail Mary pass, hoping that it might help me out. And it didn't work, but I thank you anyway, Chris. You're a gentleman and a scholar. Because I was spending money left and right trying to find memory that like the Goldilocks. You know, when Goldilocks tries all 3 bowls of mush, and she finally finds the one that works. And it's like this machine is looking for that Goldilocks off-the-shelf 30-pin RAM, and Well, unfortunately, sometimes you just never find that memory. You see, Toshiba used 30-pin SIMs, but they used a very particular module, and that's the one that's hard to find. Some say that they're proprietary. I think it's I think they used a proprietary memory or a module that uses an industry standard slot type and just has one pin mapped differently. That's it. Well, anyway, long story short, we got her going. Let's take a look. And in this video, we're going to modify 2 more SIMs and hope that we get somewhere with it. So we have a total of about 3 megabytes of RAM. There's 1 meg on board and 2 added. So I have the keyboard disconnected, so we can't really run the setup utility. So what I'm going to do, with your permission, my viewers, is we're going to take 2 more modules. We don't know what size they are, but we have to match the speed. These are 70 nanosecond. The onboard RAM is 80 nanosecond. So for those of you other T3200SX owners, the speed has to be faster than 80 or faster. So the lower the number, the faster. It can be 80, it can be 70. It'll just run it at 80 nanoseconds. It's not a big deal. So a faster memory isn't going to hurt anything. Slower memory, like if, let's say we found, 100 nanosecond memory, then that's going to be a problem. Now these, I don't know what they are. I don't know. I'd have to look up this part number on these chips, but I don't know what the hell they are. I think they're 70s. And I got these too. These might actually be 60s. Don't know what those are. I would love to find the other one of these that I modified, and I probably tossed it across the room in anger, because I do that stuff sometimes. But I now know what I did wrong and why it doesn't work. And I got these 2 as well. So I've got enough memory, I think, to get somewhere with this. We just need to do it. Unless it ended up in that tray somewhere. I don't know. Whatever memory I have left over at the end of the day is probably just going to go into my SE, which has, there's a bad module in that machine. So we'll probably kind of give that a shot. So let's go and modify some RAM. I'd like to get at least 4 megabytes. I've got 3 in there now, so the next couple megabytes won't be an issue. I've got some 4 megabyte modules. I think it's these 2. And so let's see what we got to do here. All right, put the camera on the magnifier here. Let's see. These are of unknown capacity. So pin 28 is right here. That guy right there. So we got to sever that connection right there. Tack a wire to here and route it to here. It's not that hard to do. So let's do it. Okay. For that, we're just going to use a standard razor blade. We're going to sever that connection. We're going to keep that we're going to keep the that solder point in place. Just need to cut away at the trace. This is I believe it's called the CASP line, and I don't know what it's for. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. I don't know what it's there for. So let's try to scratch that away. I'm going to have to use my delicate instruments here. We do it. That's a deep one. Oh, and it's on both sides too. I'm gonna cut it, and I'm gonna use I got some X-Acto blades. Let me grab one of those. Get a little bit sharper. So this is going to be the end of the saga of the T3200SX RAM, I hope. I've learned a very, well, this wasn't very expensive. It was just a couple $100 or so. But I learned a lesson. No, it really wasn't that much. Let's see. Okay, so that trace is cut. We'll confirm that with a multimeter. And I'm going to use the blade tip to scratch away at the solder mask, so we can solder to it. And we're going to cut the other side very carefully. Okay. I'll use my razor blade to remove that trace. Okay, so pin 28 has been neutered. Make sure I have it right, because yeah, pin 1, yeah, okay. Yep, yeah, that's the right pin. And we can actually look through it with a light to make sure there is no connection. Yeah, we're good there. And that just gets routed over to pin 2. And I'm going to do it on the face of the module here, not on the back side. I'm going to do it on the front. And then we'll, there's my scratchy scratcher. There we go. So pin 2. Unless there's a shorter, let's see. Yeah, I can just tack it into where this chip goes. Yeah, we can do that. Let's get some solder on that. I think I'm going to use my there we go. We'll get a little bead going. Oh. Yeah, you don't want to get solder on the actual contact. So we'll clean that off. Clean that up real good. I have to get myself a work mat, like a heat resistant work mat. Did it again. Okay, so let's clean the tip. And I gotta work on getting a surface to solder onto in pin 2. Scratch away a bit of that. There we go. Put a little bead of solder there. This is rosin core, so it's got, you know, it's kind of flux built in kind of deal. Okay. All right. Let's do her. I should have a spool of jumper wire that I was using earlier today. Yeah, there it is. Working on radios earlier today, which will be another video that I upload very briefly, momentarily. And yes, I am actually literally suffering from COVID right now. In case you're wondering, yes, it's real. It's not fake news. COVID is real. And the last week was absolute hell. I don't recommend COVID to anyone. Seriously, take it seriously, guys. You can die from this shit. Unfortunately, I did not. But yes, people have died from this, and you know, the COVID variant that's going around right now is not what it was, you know, 2 years ago now. That was a much stronger, much more risky strain. The one that we have now is, at least in my experience, has basically been the worst cold I have had in my 38 years of existence. I was suffering from a fever twice. Now, I'm somebody who never gets the flu. I do get the flu shot, but I never get the flu. Imagine that. And I am vaccinated, doubly vaccinated. So it's not, you know, lack of, it's not like I didn't get vaccinated. But there's a possibility that the vaccine actually reduces the effects of the virus. It makes it easier for your body to fight it. Doesn't prevent it. Unfortunately, it hasn't been that kind of vaccine, but it does reduce your suffering. So I'm told. All right, yeah, COVID is not fun. I got it on Thursday, and I have not. Today is Tuesday, and I'm just now able to like live my life. Don't get it. If you can avoid it, avoid it. And I think I know where I got it too. My girlfriend, she's got it too. Then she tripped and broke her freaking ankle. Long story. Unrelated. She didn't break her ankle because of COVID. But yeah, if you've had it, you don't want it again. I tell you what. Just put a tiny little bead of solder on that right there. And I had a pair of tweezers here. We're just gonna tack that some bee. Trying to do this without, I have my helping hand thing, and it's just always in my way, so. Okay. That should be modified correctly. And then we're going to do the other one. That's pin 28. That lead is routed to pin 2. And we're going to do the other matching module. This one right here. And we're going to cut, fizz. Actually, I think I found that the X-Acto does a better job. The funny thing, though, that surprises me, is that I didn't get COVID until now, and I have been exposed to it. I work around people that have had it. Almost everyone I work with at this point has had it once or twice, and I'm just getting it now for the first time. So, did I get it out? No? Yes? No? Maybe so? Let's try that again. Yeah, RetroTech Chris has been a very helpful asset to the collecting community. Can't thank him enough for what he's done, not only for me, just, I mean, I was just going to keep my memory, and, you know, he thought that he would lend a hand, and it's greatly appreciated. Let's see if I can't really tell. Scrape that back a little more. But who knew, you know, that it was just I just didn't quite understand the object of the game. And you know what? That happens from time to time. It happens. You just have to pick yourself up by the heel straps or boot straps, and go back in. Try again. After you've finished swearing and cussing and throwing stuff all over the house because you're like, what the hell? It's like the computer gods are just against me today. They actually make a router attachment to do this with an X-Acto, and cutting tracers is a common practice. And it's funny, I was just talking about this in my in the video I was doing on the Panasonic radio that I have on my bench right now. That belongs to a customer. And when manufacturers, board designers, when they screw up, and they do screw up. Oh, tell me, they screw up. They actually end up having an entire department dedicated to reworking brand new boards. And this is what they do. So we want to make sure that we've cut that tracer, and you can verify it with a multimeter. So we want to make sure that pin 28 is indeed neutered and does not make any contact here. Okay. Alright, I think we're good there. Make sure the other side is just as broken. Okay. I think we're good. I'm going to scrape it one more time just to be sure. I don't want to scrape it too hard because I don't want to cut any more tracers. Okay. And just kind of grind into it like that. I still see shiny copper where I shouldn't. I thought I cut that away. Let's go back in and go in for the kill. She's dead. She's dead, Jim. We're not going to worry about it. All right. And then, like I said, just kind of scrape away a little bit of the masking. Solder mask. Want to expose that shiny copper. Okay. That gives us a solder point. And do the same thing near pin 2. There we are. Lay down some fresh solder on both points. It might be beneficial to clean your soldering tip. Heat that up nice, get a good bond. There we are. Alright, looks like we got our soldering points intact. Now we're going to take our little zip wire and we're going to, I'm going to just throw it in my my little helping hand thingy over here. Is that in frame? No, it is. There we go. We're going to just put a little bead of solder on the end. Now the insulation on this wire, this is called well, I call it rework wire, but I think that's what they call it in the industry. That little bit of insulation will burn off. It's supposed to do that. You just have to clean your solder iron, your iron tip when you do that, and then we're gonna just, we already put our little bead of solder there. Oh, it broke off. Let's reattach it. and over. And we'll then snippy snip. If you do this modification wrong, like I did, there's a chance, possibly, that you might damage the logic board, which is what I was afraid of. I think I got lucky. Both upper slots seem to still function. So we'll know a little bit more once we finish the job. And go ahead and but yeah. So this video is for those of you like me who bought the only T3200 you could find, and it had the poverty spec memory option. And you're wondering, well, shit, now what am I going to do? I'm not going to just go to Best Buy and buy some memory. I'm a day late and $1 short for that one. And that is how you do it. Don't do what I did. Alright. Alright. Here they are. I think that's going to be 4 megs total. Let's see what we get. Okay. Yep. Yes, ma'am. Now, you'll notice how these NEC modules, which I don't know what so the chips are made by NEC, or Oki in this case here. We see that these require the jumpers, whereas the NECs do not. So we're up to 5 megabytes of RAM, which is where mine was when I was a kid. Now, we have 2 empty slots, and gosh darn it, I'm not going to leave it that way, because we have more RAM. We have more RAM yet. I have these that I need to try. Let's take a look at these. Now these are, again, unknown speed. Pin 28. Okay, these ones, all right, pin 28, I have no good place to solder onto. They go over to, there's a resistor or something underneath this chip here. Now these, pin 28, is routed up and over. Oh, this one's going to be easy. Let's do these. These are Mitsubishis. Let's give those a shot and see what happens. All right, I'm going to have to shape these a little differently. Here we go. Big money, big money, big money. 3, 4, 5, 6 meg. Ooh. All right, let me show you another trick. I've already done one side. I have to do the other now. But what we're going to do is we're going to pull them out very carefully. Okay. You'll notice that it has a hard time latching onto the other side. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to take these over to the disc sander, and we're going to gently shrink them down. So what we're going to do, see how I actually put a little bit of hot glue on those tracers. So we're going to modify these by grinding away at the end a little bit. I want to go nuts. Allow them to clip in properly. I think I might have taken a little too much off, but That's all right. And there you go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's make sure it still works. Now, I have one broken clip. I have the broken clip, and I'm going to put it back. But before I go through that trouble, why don't we boot it into Windows and make sure everything seems A-okay. And I'm also going to run a full memory diagnostic on it. All right. Yep, 7168, baby. That's more than mine had. I'm happy. All right, let's see if it boots up. We might be getting memory errors. We don't know that. So we're not out of the woods yet. You know, we're definitely not. We still have more work to do. I still do intend to recap parts of this machine. And maybe not all of it, but certainly parts of it. And I don't have a mouse hooked up, do I? Yeah, I do. I'd like to find a better mouse too. So it boots into Windows. Screen looks pretty good. I guess I'm getting used to it. Maybe this is perfectly normal. Now, one obvious improvement should be the handling of the screensaver. Because when you're running Windows 3.1 on 1 megabyte of RAM, it is challenged. Let's do that real quick. Set it to high speed, 10 windows, and let's do the quick test on that and see how it looks. I guess it's not much of an improvement, but then again, it is still a 386 processor, so it's not going to be great. It's not exactly flying, but all right. I want to run a full RAM test on this. All right, here we go. I just added the two 4 megabyte modules that I had. This should be interesting. 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, it only sees them as 2. Yeah, but I think I lost it. So at this point, I am going to work on replacing the broken hinge. And we're going to call it done. I'm not going to, you know what? I'm not going to do any more work to this thing unless I absolutely have to. I am going to run memtest on this. I'm going to try memtest. My microscope software won't run with anything beyond the stock 1 meg of RAM. Why, I don't know. But if I run memtest on it, I should be in good shape. So I'm gonna download that real quick. We'll get a floppy disk, format her up, and give it a try. Until then, have a great day. Let's take a look at this display. So I'm pulling the display off to check for, I need to replace one of the hinges. This guy right here. And I meant to make a mental note to check the capacitors on this display. And there's a good reason why, and it turns out my hunch was correct. Check this out. Look at this, got kind of warm. That got kind of really warm. It got hot. But look at this right here. This is an electrolytic capacitor that is doing what electrolytic capacitors love to do. It's oozing electrolyte right out the side here. Now these are what are called axial capacitors. Yeah, that's wet. That is wet. So this is a fairly recent event and likely the result of age, just plain age. No other reason for that to happen. So we're going to just go ahead and replace all of these little cherry bombs and just get that over with. Not that many. I just need to find some axial caps that that'll do the job. Make a special note of the temperature, 105 degrees C. Yeah, some of these are going to be exotic, I guess. I can't even read what that one is. Let's see, 1 microfarad, 250, 1 microfarad. So I'm going to make a list of these and maybe post them to the video so you all can see, if you have one of these, what to buy. But we're going to replace them all. There's no sense in leaving any soldiers behind. This is a delicate procedure because these screens are sensitive. They're fragile, they're heavy. This weighs as much as a modern laptop. Just this screen alone weighs about as much as a Chromebook. No joke. Good luck finding another one when you break it. It just is what it is. This might improve our brightness situation, I'm hoping. I think it will. And yeah, we're going to do them all because, again, oh, that one looks like it might be starting to leak right there. This one right here. If we look, I mean, I could just replace the one and maybe be fine, but I don't think it's worth, no, it's not worth that. It's better to just replace them all. So I got to make a list of what I got, and these are all axial, meaning that the leads go through, or on either end. And the risk of not changing these out can be pretty serious. They could potentially short out. It's hard to say what could be going on inside these. And if that ever happens, we'll be replacing a lot more than capacitors. So, yeah, that happened. So, that got hot. That's bothering me. I mean, it's a good working panel. So, yeah, it's got high voltage. Oh, yeah, there's lethal voltages in these when they're powered up. So, yeah, that's a thing, too. Very, very, very high voltage in these displays when they're in operation. So, just keep that in mind. All right, now we got to get in to do what we came here for. I'm going to swap out this broken hinge. Now, the hinge itself isn't really broken. It's just, I mean, technically it is. But the structural part of it is still sound. It still does what a hinge does. It hinges. But the component, or the little plastic nylon collar that it uses to, why the hell won't it come out? It just didn't want to come out. I've had you out before, you stupid jerk. Anyway. Oh, because the collar is in the wrong spot. All right, we gotta physically move it. Somehow move it back to where it belongs. Maybe we can do that. This collar's broken right here. That's the problem. And yeah, it's in the wrong position to be pulled out. So we've got to actually pull it with a pair of pliers. I don't have any slip joints down here, so we'll try these needles. What we have to do is pull it this way, without damaging anything. There we go. That should get the job done. And we're almost there. There we go. Okay, good. So you can see that this whole section is missing. Now, I tried fixing this with, hilariously, tried fixing this with epoxy putty. And, well, it didn't last. It worked for a couple cycles, and it was like, all right. And then, oh no. Oh no. I heard a snap and little bits and pieces flying around inside. Here's the new one. You can see that collar is very much intact. It looks like it's got some stress on it, but that's, what are you going to do? This was 10 bucks. I'm not going to complain about a little bit of stress cracking. This one will probably break eventually. Yeah, probably. Now, getting this one in is going to be challenging. Is it the right one? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. No, it's the right part. And the collar is in the correct position for re-entry. I think. Maybe we need to manipulate it a little more. So if I put it in like that... Oh, wait, we got it in. Okay, it wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. Just put some screws in there. So what's next for this machine? Well, all I have to do at this point is we need to repair that screen before something catastrophically fails. We need to fix that. And you're going to find as you folks get, you newer hobbyists get into this hobby, you're going to find stuff like this all the time. This is just the way things are when you collect vintage technology. Things are going to be broken that may not appear broken. Stuff that might be about to fail. And a lot of the reason for this failure is just simply age. This is a 30 plus, this thing is 33 years old. I mean, it's old enough to own a house and have kids and life regrets. This is no spring chicken. And it's a computer, no less. And they were only meant to last 4 to 5 years. So you're going to run into this kind of stuff all the time. And you're going to find that some machines, throughout their lifetimes, they're going to need to be restored more than once. It's just the nature of the beast. But it's why we do what we do. It's a hobby of love and passion. And it's helpful to have a room full of junk you don't need so that you can restore the stuff you don't need. Just one hand washes the other. So that all having been said, I think my next step is to head over to Mauser and order up some capacitors. I got to make me a list. Check it twice to find out who's naughty or nice. At this point, though, I actually could reassemble the rest of it. I'm not going to do the power supply at this point, but I am going to start reassembling. Yeah, I can just reassemble it. I don't need to put that shit over there. I'll leave it. Oh, one more thing I wanted to point out that is actually quite important to note. I meant to mention this early on in the series, but there's a knockout plug right here for a 5-pin DIN keyboard. Now, when I had my T3200SX back in the day, I had that knockout was missing, and there was a plug back there. But before you get too excited, you get one of these machines, and you're like, oh, I want to use it in desktop mode. Yes, that's the thing. Don't get too excited and start knocking these plugs out, and here's why. Let's take a look. Oh, okay. Mine has been endowed with a plug, but some of them haven't been. So there is actually a plug back there and some corrosion. That's not important right now. But that plug right there is for a 5-pin DIN keyboard, an AT-style keyboard. Now, yes, you can use an ATX if it's adaptable, whatever, or a PS2. A PS2 style keyboard with an adapter will work if it's compatible. But not every one of these has that plug, so I'm told. So what you want to do is make sure that you take the back cover off before you blast a hole in the side of your case, because you just might find there's nothing there. Little word to the wise. Anyway, this machine is looking pretty good. We've addressed most of its major problems, except one, bad caps. I really should be checking this power supply for anything blown, but right now I'm not in the mood, so I'm not going to. That's my choice. My body, my choice. But this cover actually just looks like it just slides off. That's what it looks like. But again, I don't want to mess with it right now. I'm not really in the mood to do so. Although I'm damn curious. But Now, capacitors on the board, they can be a source of discomfort, but fortunately they're not SMD caps, which are leak prone. These look like good old-fashioned electrolytics. They do fail, but not all the time. The ones in the display fail because they're in a high stress, high heat location, high tension. There's a lot going up there, going on up there voltage-wise. So they do go bad, and well, we're going to replace them, and we're going to see what the hell happens. We're going to see what happens when bad caps go good. No other way around. Our Connor peripherals drive is doing just fine. It's a damn good machine. I think I did very well with this purchase. I paid a lot for it, but then again, you look at what they're worth when they're restored. I did just fine. My modified memory modules are working. I glued this tab back on. It doesn't need to be, but I put it there just because. Yeah, it's turning out to be a very fine project machine, and it's generating a lot of content for the channel. So, and while I have this apart, I'm going to better secure this. This is my battery that I've fixed up. Get that back there. That's not going anywhere. All right, bedtime, gotta go. Have a good night. All right, so capacitor time. In my next video, we're going to be replacing all of these capacitors, all the electrolytics. We're not going to do any tantalums or any ceramics or anything like that, just the electrolytics. Those are the ones that seem to go bad the most often in older electronics, even in newer. And the reason is they're basically made like batteries, and batteries have a shelf life. But what's interesting is these capacitors are 33 years old, and for the most part, they still work. The only time I replace capacitors is if I have a damn good reason to. If they're leaking. If they're SMD aluminum caps, I replace them. Those are just ticking time bombs. And they almost always fail. But the earlier, I'd say pre-mid-90s electrolytics, they seem to hold up for a long time. And they don't seem to, they die a slow death, you know. The modern ones, they blow up like blasting caps, but these, they're pretty well made. That's why I don't go in and replace them all unless I have a good reason to. In this case, we have a damn good reason. This guy right here, as I showed earlier in the video, I had run this machine for about an hour, and just timing wise, I decided, okay, well, now I'm going to break it down. Had I not done this, I wouldn't have found the problem. But I started to just, you know, kind of tear into it after I did the memory test. By the way, it passed with flying colors. The memory's good. I used MemTest 86. It ran pretty nicely. No issues. And I noticed, and I looked over here, there was foam coming out the end of this cap, right out of that axial lead right there. And I'm like, that's not supposed to do that. Not supposed to happen. What was happening here is this capacitor more than likely was developing high ESR, equivalent series resistance. When you add resistance to something where there shouldn't be, you get heat. What does heat do? It makes things hot. If you've got a liquid electrolyte in there and it heated up like that, it's going to start to boil, and you're going to get seal failure. It's going to start coming out, as we saw. Which is why right now you can't even tell. You can't even tell. Right now you would never know unless you notice that telltale residue on that lead right there. You would not know that there was a problem here. So that was just good timing on my behalf, like accidentally good timing, that I found this actually happen. So looking at the others, again, looking closer, I see what could potentially be a problem right here. This one, or that could be solder. That could be, yeah, maybe not. But we don't really see any of that crustiness on the rest of these, except for maybe this one here. That one doesn't look too nice. But we're going to replace them all because we're already in here, and it's easy to just build an order form on Mauser.com. Just do them all. The ones that we're replacing these with are Vishays. That was all I could find. And I suspect that, well, there were others, but the Nichicons that I love so much, they don't seem to come in these values and these exact dimensions. So I just said, what the hell? We'll just use Vishays. I've used them before. You know, I'm not sure I would put them in a brand new. If I were building this screen from scratch, I'd probably not use those if I could get away with it. But you know, because they're not bad. I looked up where they are in terms of quality tier, and they're like kind of like a mid-range, but they're not top tier. But the Vishays that Mauser sells, at least I know they're not. Mauser doesn't. I don't think Mauser's really famous for selling garbage. They don't sell knockoff, that's for sure. They buy their stuff from legitimate sources, you know. So you're not likely to find counterfeit caps on Mauser.com. You're just not going to find that. You'll find them on Amazon, you'll find them on eBay and other less reputable sources, but Mauser you're going to get at least direct from manufacturer. So I feel good about that. And yeah, we're going to do them all because it's just not worth going back in here again. If I don't have to take this apart again, I'll be happy. If I never have to dive into that machine again, I'll be a very happy man. So let's take a look at our parts list. Now the cost for all this is about $50 US. That's including $7 in shipping. So if you happen to live near Mauser's warehouse and you can walk in and take what you want, I would do that. But here are the part numbers, the values, the dimensions. Rough dimensions are not exact. Besides, I couldn't get exact if I tried. Now, getting back to what they use. So these are going to be some earlier style. These are more than likely like an oil-based electrolyte, which they stopped using, I think, for environmental reasons. You know, when they started making environmental considerations a priority in electronics design in like the mid-90s, that's when they started moving away from moving towards lead-free solder. That's when they started moving away from the earlier oil-based electrolyte capacitors and going with what they have now. You know, it's just the way it goes. And these earlier ones naturally lasted longer. Leaded solder was a better choice in all aspects other than maybe, you know, health considerations. Because it doesn't crack and it doesn't develop tin whiskers like lead-free does. And these older capacitors would last forever until they don't. So anyway. So stay tuned for our next video. We're going to actually do the repair. I'm going to show you how that's done. Hopefully, if you own one of these, you've already mastered the art of disassembly. I would hope. The one tool that I use when removing the decal on the display housing, I actually use a very low temp heat gun. I'll show you what I use. You can use a hair dryer if that's all you have. I use this. It's a step above a hair dryer. This thing right here is only about 300 watts, so it's not going to burn the plastic unless you really try. Just kind of warm it up and then use a spludger to get it off. And the reason is you can't replace that decal. Once it's gone forever. And while I know a company who will replace, like, if I get enough people who tell me they need that decal, that overlay on the front, you know, let me show you what I mean here. This thing right here, this decal right there, you can see it. I don't want to take it out of the container. If you need one of those, if I get enough people who commit to buying one of those decals, I can have them reproduced professionally. I've done this for the vintage Miata stereo market. I can do it for these. If I send him one, he will reproduce it. It's going to cost money, a lot of money. It might be around $100 a label, but if you need one, if I get enough people who say they want one of those decals, I will have them reproduced. My promise. And it's going to cost. It's going to cost some money. I would estimate around $100 a label to have them reproduced, but it can be done. So if you need one of these or more of them, mine's in perfect shape. I don't need to replace it. But I know many of you guys out there who have these. There's a company that I work with for my side gig, and they can reproduce this. Make a brand new one for you. Exactly like the original. I would send him my original, and he would be like, okay, set up the machine. Minimum quantity I'm gonna need, I would say if I were to have these produced, I would probably need a minimum of about maybe 30 orders to make it worth my while, and you'd be looking at around $100 a pop, give or take. So if that's something you guys are interested in, I'll get on it. My contribution to the Toshiba world. So should have mentioned that earlier. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna make a PSA earlier on in this video on that.